Hey guys, welcome to the Line Change and welcome to the very first episode of the Baby Nucks Report. I want to give a quick shout out, as I always do, to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of this incredible, amazing, absolutely splendid artwork you see behind my shoulder here, and you guys can check them out yourselves at gassjackart.com. Once again, that is gassyjackart.com. And you guys can actually get your hands on some of these yourselves by checking them out on his website. There is a link to it in the description down below. Now, without any further ado, the Abbotsford Canucks played a doubleheader, both on Friday and then a matinee on Saturday, both against the Laval Rockets. First, as I mentioned, they played on Friday, then Saturday afternoon. We're going to quickly recap Game 1 and then follow that up with Game 2. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Starting with Game 1, the starting lineup for the Abbotsford Canucks, they welcome back their captain, Chase Waters, who missed both games in Henderson while recovering from an injury. Meanwhile, Henry Ravinskis made his AHL debut after signing with the Vancouver Canucks midsummer from Europe. He spent 2 seasons playing 15 minutes down the road in the QMJHL earlier in his career. Ty Young, who did not see any action in Week 1, got the start to make his season debut. The first line was Berard, Amon, and Kravtsov. Second line was McKieran, Mueller, and Klimovich. And then you had Ravinskis, Lebate, and Stillman, and then Ulrichsen, Waters, and Gambites. Your defensive pairings were Schultz and Willander, and Knizov. I probably mispronounced that. Apologies. Minio, and then you had Arntzen and Kudratsev. Then, of course, as we mentioned, you had Ty Young in between the net. Scratched were Jet Wu, who is obviously still injured, along with Guillaume Brisebois, Jaden Lee, Josh Bloom, Jackson Kuntz, Cooper Walker, Derek Dashke, sorry, I probably mispronounced that name too, Aku Koskinvu, and Yuri Patera. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first period. It wasn't the ideal start for the visiting team as Mackenzie McKiernan was called for tripping. The play was a result of various Canucks playing lackadaisical defense in the neutral zone, allowing Nate Sherman to weave through the lane with ease. PK1 had Niels Amon, Chase Waters, Schultz, and Kudratsev, while PK2 had Mueller, Gambites, Minio, and Knizov. The penalty kill was successful with Ty Young standing tall on both shots faced in the stretch. As an act of foreshadowing, be ready to hear that often in this recap, as Ty Young was one of the only positive stories from this game. With momentum in hand, the first half of the period was all Laval forcing Young to stay sharp, and he most certainly was. The Canucks' best looks came just before the midway point of the period, where they pressed hard and worked the cycle. Tom Willander had one of his best shifts, keeping a few pucks in from the line while adding the first shot of his night. Those chances and offensive zone keeps were coupled with a few good sticks in the defensive zone and patient breakout outlets. So far, it had been one of the young defenders' best periods. But despite a few decent shifts, the opening period belonged to Laval, who was enjoying several stints of sustained pressure. They were working the cycle well and putting the Canucks defense through a turn cycle, resulting in a few missed opportunities, or few missed coverages, rather. But as he was for most of the night, Ty Young was up to the challenge. With just over 3 minutes to go in the period, the Canucks were sent back to the box as a result of a high stick to take out one of the team's best penalty killers. Eventually, with them working the man advantage, you got the sense that Laval was going to capitalize, and capitalize they did. And that's precisely what happened. Laval would score to make it 1-0. Jared Davidson from Florian Jacky and Philip Messar. Building up the ice, the Rock gained entry before finding the trailer, Jared Davidson, who ripped a one-timer to beat a sliding Young clean to open the scoring. Goal aside, Young was the story of the period, earning several strong saves to keep his team within striking distance, and with just 7 seconds remaining on the clock, the Canucks were sent to their first power play of the game. They kick off the middle frame with the man advantage. Shots at the end of one period were 16-3 in favor of Laval. So obviously not a great start for the Abbotsford Canucks, only getting 3 shots on goal and also being down by 1 as well going into the second. Moving on to the second period. The Canucks began the second, as we mentioned, on the power play with fresh ice to work with. Power play 1 consisted of Mueller, Klimovich, Amon, Lebate, and Kudryavtsev. And then power play 2 was Alriksson, Kravtsov, Berard, Waters, and Wielander. Vilmer Alriksson collected the best chance of the stretch after the Canucks passed the puck around the perimeter before Waters found the lanky forward in the slot. Just before the 5-minute mark, the Canucks took their second tripping minor of the game to send the Rockets to their third power play of the night already. Although the Canucks were well on their way to another successful kill, the captain, Chase Waters, took his second penalty of the game for another tripping call to send the home team on a 20-second 5-on-3. Thankfully, Ty Young continued his A-plus form, bailing them out on multiple accounts. By this point, the Canucks only had 7 shots, but once again, Ty Young continued to be the difference maker for the Abbotsford Canucks and continued to keep them in the game. The game took a bit of a dark turn in the back half of the period after Chase Stillman dropped the gloves with Josiah Didier. Unfortunately, Didier had lost his helmet while Stillman was in the process of dropping him to the ice before he went headfirst into the ice. This was a very scary scenario, and Didier, a stretcher was called. He was fortunately able to escape off the ice under his own power, but it was still very scary. And in the end, Chase Stillman was sent down the tunnel with a game misconduct. The Canucks finally picked up a chance of their own, courtesy of Joseph Lebate. Following the poised chip pass, Lebate was sprung on an odd man rush with Klimovich, where he held for a shot. As had been the case all night, Jacob Fowler snagged it with ease for his 10th save of the game. So at this point, the Abbotsford Canucks had gone from 3 shots to 10 shots. But that sparked some momentum, and as a result of a Laval penalty, the Canucks nearly cashed in for the equalizing tally. Jacob Fowler was up for the task, though, with Young being the exception. It was a long and lackluster period for the Canucks. It wasn't until the very last stretch that they finally had collected some momentum, but it was without any success. Final shots after 2 periods were 22-15 in favor of Laval, with the score still being 1-0 for Laval. Let's move on to the third period. The home team opened the scoring early off another one-touch shot, which Young had little chance of stopping. Laval would make it 2-0 by Philip Messar from Owen Beck and Jared Davidson. After gaining the zone, Davidson dumped the puck in deep. Attempting the big hit was Joe Arntzen, who unfortunately interrupted Chase Waters, who went in to relieve Kudryavtsev, allowing the puck to slide right to Owen Beck. With everyone out of sorts, a trailing Philip Messar was left alone in the slot before he put everything he had into a one-timer that beat Young clean to double the lead. And when it rains, it pours, as it wouldn't take long for the Rockets to triple their lead. They would make it 3-0 on Xavier Simoneau. I may have pronounced that wrong. Looking to go D to D and get himself out of trouble, Kirill Kudryavtsev sent the puck toward his partner in front of the net. Unfortunately, he fanned on the attempt and ended up sending it directly towards his own goalie pads, where Xavier Simoneau was waiting at the doorstep. He poked it through, and despite a short meeting from the referees, the goal stood for a 3-0 deficit. Without any offensive help, this game went from reachable to let's just get ready for tomorrow afternoon. Unfortunately, the Canucks failed to garner any chances for the remainder of the game to drop their first loss of the 25-26 season. Just the second time this team has been shut out in the Manny Malhotra era. Final shots in the game were 26-19 in favor of Laval, and the final score was 3-0. So now let's move on to the second game in this two-game series. let's go ahead and take a look at the starting lineup for Game 2. We have Kravtsov, Amon, and Ravinskis as the first line, Berard, Mueller, Klimovich as the second line, McKieran, Lebate, and Stillman as your third line, and then Alriksson, Waters, and Gambites as your fourth line. Your three defensive pairings were Schultz and Wielander once again, Knyzhov and Minio as your second pairing, and Arnston and Kudryavtsev as your third pairing. And this time, Nikita Tolopilo was in the net. So let's go ahead and recap the first period. The Laval Rocket inserted noted tough guy and former Abbotsford Canuck Vinny Arsenault into their lineup. This was significant after last night's incident where Chase Tillman dangerously dropped Josiah Didier to the ice without a helmet. According to Canucks commentator Brandon Assel and good friend of the show, Vinny could be seen delivering words to Stillman during warm-ups. And right on cue, Stillman was forced to drop the gloves and respond to his actions from the night before. To his benefit, it wasn't 6'2", 223-pound Arsenault, but Florian Jekai who took liberties. It wasn't much of a tilt, but an expected one. Once that was settled and done with, Laval picked up where they left off on Friday, piling on the pressure and getting on the board in the early minutes. Laval would score to make it 1-0. Laurent Dauphine, I probably mispronounced that, from Sean Farrell and Nate Klerman. After a short stint of pressure, Nikita Tolopilo made the initial save from the point before sliding over to rob Sean Farrell. Unfortunately, the puck bounced right out to Laurent Dauphine in the slot, who was left uncontested to deposit the puck into the yawning cage to open the scoring early. But that momentum was squashed relatively quickly as Laval took a penalty shortly after the goal, sending the Canucks to their first power play of the day. Although they did manage a trio of shots, they failed to produce at any high danger attempts, and Capo Kakinen, who Abbey fans may know from last year's Calder Cup final, was up to the challenge with each. As the penalty expired, rookie Sawyer Minio went below his own goal line to kickstart the outlet. Working under pressure, he gaffed it on the attempt for an untimely giveaway, forcing him to use his stick and hook his opponent down for a penalty of their own. The Canucks not only killed the 2 minutes off, but also grabbed the best opportunity to score. For some pressure, courtesy of Niels Amon, a Rocket defender threw the puck up, which led to a savvy read from Tom Wielander. Intercepting the puck, he and Amon went in on an odd-man rush. Wielander pushed a perfect cross-ice feed towards Amon, but he could not handle the pass, leading to a turnover and a rush down the other end. Later in the period, the duo of Philip Messar and Jared Davidson, who gave the Canucks all kinds of trouble on Friday, connected again. Laval would make it 2-0. Jared Davidson from Philip Messar and Alex Belzile. After Belzile dumped the puck low, Messer collected and acted promptly to find Davidson drop down in the slot. He delivered a perfectly placed shot to the far top corner, beating Tolopilo clean to double the lead. To add insult to injury, Henry Ravinskis took a high-sticking minor mere seconds later to send the home team back on the man advantage, with a chance to triple their lead in the opening period. The Canucks came out unscathed for a second consecutive kill, but not so much in the period as they trailed by a pair once again. Despite a slight stretch of time with a few shots, the Rocket held play for the majority of the period. The Canucks could sure use the skills of Jonathan Lekaramaki or Archie Baines or Linus Carlson or Max Sasson or even Aturatu, who are of course up with the big club currently. Final shots of the period were 15-6 in favor of Laval. Once again, Abbotsford not getting a whole lot of shots off in this first period, which is very similar to the game on Friday. Obviously, the game on Friday, they only had 3 shots after 20 minutes. The middle frame brought much-needed momentum thanks to Tom Wielander drawing the early holding call to send the Canucks on their second power play, and this time they made it count. Abbotsford would score to make it 2-1. Vitaly Kravtsov from Niels Amon and Kirill Kudryavtsev. Working the perimeter, Kirill Kudryavtsev found a patient Niels Amon down on the half wall. Taking his time, he found a wide open lane and sent a cross-ice feed to Vitaly Krasov, who ripped a booming one-timer to beat Kakinen on the far side for his first goal as an Abbotsford Canuck. Just seconds after the goal, Jared Davidson lost his cool and dropped his gloves with Dino Gambites. In the play, Davidson was given the extra 2 minutes for roughing after delivering the initial blow to send the Canucks on back-to-back man advantages. And back to work they went. Abbotsford would score to tie it up. Tom Wielander from Neil Zaman and Joseph Labate. Quarterbacking the blue line, Tom Wielander collected the puck from Amon before throwing a laser wrist shot toward the top corner for his first professional goal. And with that, the Canucks' top-ranked defender prospect has his first professional point after being drafted 11th overall in the 2023 NHL entry draft. More importantly, it evened the score and gave the Abbotsford Canucks a huge injection of life. At the other end, Nikita Tolopilo was having a quiet, strong game, doing his part to keep this game close with composed saves. And just before the midway point of the period, the Canucks were handed their consecutive power play. This time it was a 4-minute double minor after Ty Mueller was caught with a nasty high stick, which sent him to the ice for several moments before he skated off on his own power with a full face of gauze. He did not return to the game, so hopefully Mueller is not out for very long, but it only lasted 1 minute as Joseph Labate was called for an interference penalty as he attempted to set a pick play at the blue line. The good news is that the game would play 4v4 before sending the Canucks back to the advantage. Unfortunately, neither amounted to much of anything for either side. The period wrapped up with another successful penalty kill from the Canucks, keeping the 2-2 tie alive and into the final frame. The second saw a pair of firsts with goals from Krasov and Wielander for the team's best offensive period of the two-game set. For Wielander, it's a nice cherry on top of what has been a strong weekend for him as a prominent piece of the team's back end. Whether it's in the offensive or defensive zone, he's delivered patient and composed plays, looking much more comfortable in the game compared to his opening weekend in Henderson. Final shots after 2 periods were 27-11 in favor of Laval. Once again, the Abbotsford Canucks not getting a whole lot of shots on, but they most certainly were making their shots count, collecting 2 goals in this period. Moving on to the third period, the early minutes of the final frame were welcomed with sloppy giveaways and back-and-forth natural zone plays. Wasn't until the period approached the 5-minute mark that Tolopilo was tested with a shot, dealing with a bouncy puck while Vinny Arsenault stood directly in front of him in his kitchen. Despite being a young rookie, Sawyer Minio wasn't afraid to showcase his mean side and refusal to take anything from anyone. Did anyone tell him he was pushing Vinny Arsenault, though? At the other end, the rough stuff continued after Mackenzie McKieran shot attempt, more extracurriculars took place, resulting in another roughing minor to Jared Davidson. But despite a strong 2-minute power play, it was the Rocket who broke the seal. Laval would score to make it 3-2. Lucas Condotta from Xavier Simoneau and Nate Klurman. Just as the penalty expired, Xavier Simoneau worked his magic down below the goal line. Following up on the point shot, he retook the puck behind the net before finding Lucas Condotta on the slot. He went far side to beat Tolopilo with an identical goal to Davidson back in the opening period. That would be all the Rocket would need as they wrapped up with a pair of empty net goals to sweep the weekend series convincingly. Laval would score to make it 4-2. Florian Jekai from Toby Bisson and Lucas Condotta. And then they would score again, Alex Belzil, to make it 5-2. Game 2 was a much better performance, but with another sub-20 shot day, it just wasn't enough. Both goals came via power play opportunities as the offense is still proving tricky to come by. Final shots in this game were 35-19 in favor of Laval, and that is the end of the recap. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. This is a new feature for me. Obviously, I cannot watch these games myself as I do not have Flow Hockey, so I have to use Dave Hall and Canucks Army and use their recaps to help provide you guys with what goes on with the Abbott Canucks. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys like this, if you'd like to see me continue doing this, And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks and Abby Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us everywhere on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. You can see them all there. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated, and it really helps out the channel. And that's going to do it for the first episode of the Baby Nucks Report. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.